Entrepreneurship is one of the key foundations for a thriving economy. Adding innovation to the mix typically triggers a snowball effect that benefits many other businesses and individuals in the supply chain. I have an extraordinary guest today. He is Nicholas Riemer. He is the overall winner of the SAICA's Top 35-under-35 CA competition, but he's also a very innovative entrepreneur. He is the founder of the Invigilator app, and the app has already made a big difference in overcoming the education challenges our country faces in a post-COVID world. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining me, and congratulations on your big award and the Invigilator app. I think it's really fantastic. We'll talk about that a bit later. But just tell us about yourself. When and why did you decide to study accounting, and how did that shape your thinking about life?
Hi, Reka. Nice to be chatting to you today, and thank you so much. I think it's still sinking in winning the award. So I was based in Joburg. Went to a school called St. David's. Loved playing sport and that, and I think it was only obvious that I went to Stellenbosch to go and play a bit of cricket. The CA profession wasn't my first degree that I studied. I actually went down there and studied a finance degree first. Loved it. Loved playing sport, obviously, in that. And when I finished that degree, I started working in the Hollard Mergers and Acquisitions team. I think when joining that team, I really started seeing businesses and the way businesses were running, and I think that for me it clicked that I needed the best possible financial foundation in order to compete with some of these strong business leaders in South Africa. And I actually made the decision to go back and do a conversion year into CA, and then do my CA through the University of Johannesburg. So I definitely didn't go the conventional route into the CA, but I think what was important is that I made the decision to go back and do the CA for a specific purpose, because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I felt that the CA profession was going to give me the best financial skill set in order to do so.
Yeah, and the role of CAs, I think, have changed over the years. They're not bookkeepers anymore, and as you say, you think that is the foundation for being an entrepreneur. There are other degrees as well to become an entrepreneur, to try and sharpen those skills. Do you actually look at other options as well?
So I did. I looked at all the different options. There was also the CFA, the CFA profession, which was also great, but more sort of inclined with the asset management side. And I think, just having a really good grounded skill set and an all-round skill set with regards to analysing companies financially, for me was why the CA profession was top of choice. And I think I was one of those fortunate ones where I went into first rand to do my articles, and I was able to rotate through the different divisions within the bank. So I got to see a lot of different divisions and the way those divisions were working. And then I also spent a year lecturing. And I think that's for me where the passion for academia developed. And obviously it was a very important decision in my life, because that's what we're involved with now, and how we built our company.
And then you won the Top 35-under-35 award from SAICA. That's a massive award. So you actually hit it big time.
Yeah, I still, like I said, I think it's still sinking in. I think the competition for me was the first time we sort of all as a company and those that have been involved in Invigilator sort of just took a look back to see what we've actually done and what we've actually built. I think we've been in full build mode, since the beginning, and heads down. And I think that gave a good opportunity for us just to reflect and see, how this product's actually helping South Africa and students, and where it's kind of aligned to our passion, which is obviously academia and business and finance and entrepreneurship all mixed together. And that's really what the Invigilator application is.
Let's talk about the application. It is really, really interesting. It actually, you designed it or conceptualized it during the COVID period, where many challenges arose. Tell us about the app and how you saw the opportunity.
Yeah, so when we were at the beginning of 2020, there was already conversations around what would happen with universities moving fully online. And I think even though I moved into the banking space, I was always sort of there with regards to academia and guest lecturing for the University of Johannesburg, as well as helping some of the lecturers on SAICA's board courses. And I think that's where we started to see that if South Africa was going to go into a full lockdown and move completely remote from an education point of view, there weren't a lot of solutions available. And some of them had been piloted across the big universities, and it had just been done so unsuccessfully, because a lot of those solutions were, number one, very expensive, and number two, required students to have laptops, so very high-end devices, constant internet connection, and large amounts of data. So typically what you were seeing is those solutions being rolled out to very small pockets of the university, but no solutions existed for the whole university. university to move online. And that's where we started thinking about what we could potentially introduce to the market that would maintain academic integrity, but at the same time be an all-inclusive solution. And I think our first building block was, well, what does everyone have access to? And that's an entry-level smartphone. Doesn't have to be the student's own phone. They just need access to one in order to run the Invigilator application. And then the way the application works is that we take a master file selfie of a student when they register on their application. And then while they're writing, the application is going to ask them for a few things, typically replicating what a physical Invigilator would do. So it's going to ask them to take a photo themselves, and we map this back to the master file photo to ensure it's the correct student writing the exam through facial recognition technology. We've also got liveness detection built in the application, so we can tell if it's a photo of a photo, a photo of a video. We make sure that it's a live photo. We open up the microphone within the application too, so that if any talking or speech is detected, it flags it automatically for the lecturer. We've got GPS mapping built into the application to make sure students aren't writing in close proximity to one another. And then we also replicate the venue and what that physical invigilator would ask. So a photo of a student card, a photo of the first page of your script. And then very cleverly at the end of the paper, for those students that are now writing physically by hand, you can also scan and upload your paper directly onto the Invigilator platform through the application. So you don't then have to go and scan your paper in.
Let me stop you there. Listen, let's use an example. So say I need to write my final psycho exam, and I'm sitting down in a remote area. I have my phone. How does it work?
So, yeah, perfect. So you would log on to the Invigilator application. So all you would do is download the app before your exam. And then there's a QR code that's placed onto the front page of your script. You would scan that QR code and you would write your examination. Everything happens automatically in the application. So the only thing that you would be asked to do, which is once or twice during your exam, is to maybe pick up your phone and take a photo of yourself and a photo of a specific item like your first page of your script or your student card. All the mapping, the GPS mapping, all of the recordings is happening automatically next to you. And the best part about it is that you don't need constant internet or internet connection while you're writing. You can actually turn your phone onto flight mode. So even if you have a load shedding event, you can continue writing from home successfully.
So that stops cheating in its tracks.
Yeah, so we do everything we can in our power to maintain academic integrity. So the nice thing is the solution is customizable. So every university that's making use of it can set the different prompts and checks and the frequency of those prompts and checks. So the student will never know exactly what the application is doing and exactly what it's monitoring while they're writing. It always changes after every assessment. So in order to beat the application, you will need inside information into what the university set.
I just want to ask you, how many people beat it?
So, I mean, look, you really need to put your mind together. In my opinion, it's going to take more effort to try and beat the app than to just study and get 90% for your examination.
It's a very interesting concept, and I believe that in the world going forward, remote exam writing will become much more of a reality, and applications like this will make it, happen. What was the uptake?
Absolutely. So I think, the uptake in terms of universities, we've had 15 of South Africa's biggest universities making use of the application in 2021, with just over 1.4 million assessments and tests written through the Invigilator application. UNISA is one of our biggest clients, 250,000 students making use of the application. And I think why it's so effective is that if we think about traditional learning, you have to bring all the students into a physical venue, make sure they're physically invigilated. You can only test or examine them once or twice a year because it's going to cost too much to do that. Whereas now with technology like the Invigilator application, you can constantly engage with students by testing them, engaging with them weekly. And it's a solution where we charge universities a once-off annual license fee, and the university can utilize the application for unlimited assessments across the 12 months. So really is a great tool to improve teaching and learning.
I would imagine the opportunity is not only limited to South Africa. Are there similar applications or competitors, in the rest of the world?
So there are a lot of big technology companies playing in the space, but like I mentioned earlier, they're playing in the space where it's full monitoring, so constant proctoring, constant viewing you through a webcam, and that typically doesn't work in the emerging markets. So where we've seen that is that there's no competitors at the moment, fortunately for us, that are playing in the mobile phone space and playing with the low bandwidth type of solution and essentially moving away from the full proctoring. So absolutely, we're now moving the product into Africa, into Australia, as well as India. So because it's been such a success in South Africa now, we're getting large demand internationally now to use the product. And I think what's exciting for me is that if you look at students, for example, in Africa in the future might be able to study a full degree in Australia, but they don't have to leave. They can do it at a much cheaper rate. They no longer need to go and physically stay in another country to study the degree of their choice. You can now be in the location that suits you at a time that suits you and write all your examinations using technology.
Listen, it's a great idea, but there's a big difference between having a great idea and then actually building the business plan, the tech, and the marketing thereof. Tell us about that process, after you've identified the opportunity until you actually, open the door, so to speak, of this app.
So I think for us, one of the success factors to the Invigilators is the team, and the dream team. We call it the dream team because it was 4 founders of the application. So 2 of the other founders are senior lecturers at the University of Johannesburg. They've been lecturing for more than 10 years each. So we really had an insight into the academic side of the way the solution needed to work. My brother's a very gifted software engineer. So we had the 4 of us, when we had the idea, we could go 18, 19, 20 hours a day in building the solution as fast as possible, the best way with the right blend between technology and academia.
How long did it take?
So we started building the solution in April 2020, and SAICA, we ran our first exam was the APT, so the Accounting Professional Training Exam, which is SAICA's Board 2 practice exam, in September 2020, and that was version 1. So I mean, it was the first real test of the solution, and I mean, if we look at where the application is now, it's like night and day. But essentially, a 4-5 month build, get it to market because of the need. And I think we were in one of those unique positions where the demand really exceeded the supply.
Tell us about that first pitch.
Sure, it was nerve-wracking, I must say. So I think, you can only simulate that many students hitting your servers at that time, so many ways until it actually happens. And I think for all of us, you sit on, the edge of your seats the whole time in the early stages to see, is everything going to hold up? Is everything going to work correctly? Because, I mean, you can demo it across the phones that you had. And I mean, I think one of the major issues with regards to this type of technology is it has to work across every different cell phone. We're talking about it needs to work on any entry-level smartphone. So I mean, over the period we can run a second-hand phone company because we have to acquire so many phones to test the solution. But I think in the early stages that was definitely one of our biggest hurdles, was making sure that, okay, for this specific Huawei, it's not taking a photo correctly. We have to go in and find the code, add that specific element. Okay, now it's working. So I think, that was a lot of the build, and when we released it, obviously we were all very, very eager to see how it was going to work, and thankfully it's all been successful. We've definitely had our hiccups with regards to server configuration and dealing with the large volumes, but like I said, we've got the dream team on the Invigilator, the initial founders, and we've been able to come up with the right solutions and make sure that the product that hits the market is doing so in the correct way.
Listen, this is not an accounting app, it's an education app. You've got the accounting background. How did you use that in this whole process?
So I think what was great for the SAICA competition is that because a lot of the CAs, or all of the CAs writing APT and UCT's board course, are making use of the application as well as in their undergrad degrees, every CA entering the market now is using the Invigilator application. So I think for me as a CA, it's fantastic that we could have introduced the product to the market that would help students continue to write. Because remember, without the solution, there was no way to make sure academic integrity was being maintained. So there was a risk that these types of exams then would have been postponed until students could come back into the venue. So what it meant for the CA profession is that students could write in the correct manner and there were no delays, and when they enter the market now, they've used the Invigilator application. And for me as a CA to see other CAs using a product that you've created is a very proud moment.
Yeah, congratulations. I think it's a fantastic application you've built. I assume the business will absolutely flourish, and in the process you've solved a big problem for the education process, and good luck, and thanks for sharing your insights.
Thank you so much, Rick. Nice chatting to you.
That was Nicholas Riemer. He's the overall winner of the SAICA's Top 35 under 35 CA competition and the founder of the Invigilator app.